All right, Brandon, I want to talk Michigan football, not Michigan sign stealing, none of that, dude. Michigan plays Purdue this weekend. They start the most important four-game stretch of this season, the final four games. You host Purdue for a night game in the Big House. You travel to Penn State, which could be a gauntlet match. You travel to Maryland, and then you host Ohio State in the Big House. This is it. You have managed to be 8-0 at this point. All the noise that surrounds this program is there. You think these players haven't heard it? They have. They filter it out. You hear that sometimes, like they don't hear the noise. They hear the noise. Brant, they get to play Purdue this Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. in the Big House. What do you expect to see from this team?
55-0. I expect laser focus. Like we talk about this every week with this team, Dave. We expect them to be locked in because I think that this team specifically over the last couple years have just been built that way. Like they welcome the distractions and then they block it out. Like I think the crazier the better maybe for this team. Like they need the fuel. They need the chips on the shoulders. Like they thrive off of this. It almost reminds me, Dave, remember those old D'Antonio teams that we used to hate to play? Like they remind me of that team. Like they have that chip on their shoulder where they're like, we are gonna get something to piss us off basically, and we're gonna come at you. So that is what I expect to see this weekend. And you get them off a bye week. Like I'm feeling kind of bad for Purdue. Like you are just in the way of this freight train right now. And I think the CFP ranking them 3, I know we'll get into that. You can take that as slight disrespect, although the optics are, Ohio State has the 2 better wins. Georgia is Georgia, and you probably are the 3rd best team in the nation, just on paper at this moment. Not to the eye test, but I would say that's an extra motivating factor as well. And going from the Big House this Saturday to next Saturday in Happy Valley, you're touching on the end of the season, Dave. That is where you want to be clicking on all cylinders. So this team wants to make sure that they are, and I expect it Saturday night.
I do too. I'm so fired up to see this team. Like I do. I feel like Michigan fans are starting to feel that way where they're like, okay, we get it. We get it, regardless of what's true and what's not and what evidence is out there. Look, there's 4 games of football that need to be played right now. And it starts, 4-game season begins Saturday night. I think Michigan's going to absolutely roll. And I think J.J. McCarthy is going to continue to build his Heisman resume. Brant, you mentioned the CFP rankings. Ohio State comes in at number 1, Georgia 2, Michigan 3, Florida State 4. Do you have any issue with Michigan being 3 or falling back there? Or are you like me where you almost kind of liked it?
Yeah, no, I'm fine with it. I mean, would I have had it slightly different? I can't say that I would. I would probably have Washington over Florida State. That's my huge gripe. And you know what? The one thing that people aren't talking about right now is Oregon at 6. And that's such a great call by this CFP committee. That is the 6th best team probably right now, just because they're holding that loss. But I don't think for one second that Alabama is somehow better than a 1-loss Oregon. That's just stuff we would see in the past, and it's ridiculous. And they finally are starting to figure this out. Dave, I know you're not going to sit here and tell me that Michigan has 2 better wins than Ohio State. They don't. They just don't. So we can't argue that as Michigan fans. Georgia. Now, I guess we could go back and forth and say, yeah, I mean, they have both beat 8 pretty mediocre teams, yada, 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 the Brock Bowers thing, stuff like that. But I really don't think that Michigan deserves to be over them right now either. And as far as being in front of a team like Florida State, now that's where the eye test comes in and says, you had a 2-point game against Boston College. I don't think so. That's not going to work for us. It's going to be Michigan that hasn't had to play a 4th quarter all season, Dave. So let's just put it that way. And I think the CFP committee, for the first time, maybe ever, I can't believe they're going to figure it out in the last year. Like it took all these years to figure it out. They finally nailed the formula this late in the ball game, but I absolutely loved it, Dave.
I'll tell you why I loved it too, Brant. There is nothing more than number 1 Ohio State coming to Michigan for that last game of the season. There is, I want nothing more than that. I want them to be number 1. I do not want Georgia to jump them, even if they beat Missouri this weekend. Like, who knows? I don't want it. I want Ohio State number 1. I want them when they are ranked the number 1 team in the country, and I love it. I love that Michigan fell back a spot. I think it just adds. And I think the committee got it right. See, I'm not saying that this was like, oh, Michigan was slighted. No. Hear me out. They got it right. But from the optics, going from 2 all year to 3, people notice that and seeing that and are like, whoa, what is this? Is this related to the scandal and all of that? No, it's not. Just on paper, like you said it perfectly, Brant. Yep, it makes sense. And I want all of it. I do. I think that this team, I mean, maybe they'll prove us wrong, and I hope they don't. But I think that this team is absolutely built right now to come out with a fire lit under them that they have not had all year. And they've been getting it. You know, we saw this Michigan team over the last 4 weeks has been significantly better than the Michigan we saw in September. So, yeah, I would watch out. Rest of the college football world, I do. I think Michigan's that good, and they've got even more to play for right now. Jim Harbaugh is going to coach this team and have his assistant coaches coach this team like they've never coached before because they know this is it. I mean, let's be honest. I don't know if the run continues after this year. Between the amount of talent that's about to exit, the controversy that surrounds the program, the uncertainty of Jim Harbaugh, we don't know what January and February hold for this program. So this is it. These are incredibly important 4 games. And I think that they have what's in it. I really do. I think that this team is built to win these 4 games, to win a Big Ten championship, and go make a real push to win a national championship this year.
Dave, quick question for you. Do you think that, or I guess, why do you think Michigan has been different in these last 4 games? Any clue why?
Yeah, I think the return of Jim Harbaugh. I think that you saw what Michigan looked like with, you know, whether it was the rotating coaches or whatever. The missing element was Jim Harbaugh. I mean, I don't see it like like I've said before. Harbaugh's not the kind of guy that motivate me, but whatever he has a hold of that locker room, it was like, oh, okay, they're just different. They're built different with Jim there. And they knew the controversy that was surrounding him before that. I think having him back was like, okay, let's go. Brant, you add a little bit more salt to that wound. Yeah, I think that this team's about to take. If you break up this season into thirds, the first 4, the middle 4, and the last 4, Michigan got significantly better, and I think they're going to take a leap here. And I think you're going to see it this Saturday night against Purdue.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off that. I think it has a lot to do with Harbaugh, just like you had just said. But I think the other thing is getting key guys back, and now they're in mid-season form, if you will. The Will Johnsons, the Rod Moores. You know, don't forget how good these guys were last year at the Big Ten championship game. Like, just for example, Dave. And now they've got all the reps in. Now they're clicking on all cylinders. Now this team, yeah, you saw it 2 weeks ago against Michigan State. This team is nothing to be messed with on the defensive side of the ball, for sure. I mean, leading the nation in scoring defense, that's not something that we've really had at Michigan. Like, we've been in the top 10, stuff like that. But number 1, that usually belongs to a school like Georgia or a school like Alabama. But no, it's the top spot this year. And the other thing, when you talk about the last 4 games, Dave, guess who else is in the top 10 in scoring defense? Ohio State. And that doesn't happen either. So something's got to give when these two meet up. I just want the quarterback that's going to be an NFL player.
Yeah, and that quarterback's name is J.J. McCarthy. He's probably the last piece of this argument. Talk about what's the difference. JJ McCarthy's a difference too. That kid has gotten exponentially better as the season has gone on, and looks to be every bit of what we thought we were getting when he committed to this program. Brant, I'm absolutely excited to see this Michigan football team take the field Saturday night.